we're going to throw caution to the wind because we've got Jonathan in Michigan who claims to have solid proof of God. So how you doing, Jonathan? You're on with Seth Andrews, the host of The Thinking Atheist, and Matt Dillahunty.
I'm doing good. How are you guys?
I'm holding in there.
So I have some evidence for the Bible. If you look at the records for the past few years, there have been some archaeologists that found Jesus's tomb, and I think another person discovered his cross is still standing. So I want to know what you guys think of that. I think that's some pretty good evidence.
You think that's pretty good evidence. So you think somebody actually found Jesus' tomb and that Jesus' cross is still standing. Can you tell me any more about this? Did you bother to look up to see if the thing that you heard on the internet is even true? Because it's not.
Yeah, I did look into it. It can't be disproven, so I don't see why it would be false.
What do you mean it can't be disproven? It's not true. The statement is someone discovered Jesus' tomb. That's not true. It's not true until somebody actually identifies, and we have sufficient evidence to conclude that that's the case, so it's not true. It's also not true that Jesus' cross is still standing. So, the fact that somebody claims something like that, I mean, there's very little I can say here other than you read something on the internet, and that's not enough. What is the evidence for this?
I'm waiting on a specific source. Like a guy once said, and I heard the words, I think. These are not really the declarations rooted in evidence. I'd like to know, who's your source specifically? Who found this stuff and where geographically can we find them?
I'm not sure who exactly found this evidence, but it was discovered in Jerusalem, and I'd go on faith instead of evidence.
Okay, well, we're not interested in that. We're not interested in people who are just going to take stuff on faith, because could I just take it on faith that you're wrong and that there is no God and that white people are superior to black people and that men are superior to women? Could I take all of those things on faith?
Maybe. It depends on the context of what you're
What do you mean maybe? Couldn't I you say that you don't care about evidence, you only take it on faith, and I'm saying, couldn't I believe those things based on faith without evidence? Isn't that possible?
No.
It's not possible for me just to believe that men are superior to women based on faith without evidence. That's not possible.
I guess I'll have to think about that a little bit.
You probably should. You should probably think about several other things, because at this point, what we care about is evidence. You called in specifically. The call screener says here, you are aware of solid proof of God, historic evidence, and now you tell us you don't care about evidence, you're just taking it on faith. Are you even serious, Jonathan? Did you just call in to hear yourself talk on the TV and you're just making shit up?
No, I thought the Bible would be good evidence for God, and since these are
no, you didn't talk about the Bible, though. Do you really think that a 2,000-year-old wooden cross is still standing somewhere and that that this had to be discovered?
Well, I'd have to go see it for myself, but I think I'm going to trust the archaeologists on this.
Okay, first of all, you don't even know that you're trusting an archaeologist or that any archaeologist reported this. I'm asking you a very simple question. Let's assume that Jesus's cross has been standing this entire time. Do you really think this is something that would have had to been discovered? You don't think people would have been pointing to this for the last 2,000 years saying, yep, that's Jesus' cross. That's it. There it is right there on that hill, Golgotha. Hey, we know where this happened. Jesus' cross right there. You think this had to be discovered?
That's actually a pretty good point. I didn't think of that.
Yeah. What do you think the likelihood that a 2,000-year-old piece of wood, that if it actually happened, and so we don't even know that Jesus existed. We don't know that he was crucified. What do you think?
All I know is if the cross, well, first of all, if the cross defied 2,000 years of, deterioration, weathering, insects, let's say that this is the most hardy wood. All right, fine. If that existed and you could prove it was Christ's cross, there would already be like a bed and breakfast built, or like there would be an entire, like we know that the Holy Lands is already sort of a tourist mecca around the story of Jesus, but we know that if Jesus's tomb had been discovered and the cross had been verified, that it would make Las Vegas look like Bug Shooter, Oklahoma. You know what I'm saying? This would be like Mecca. People would have come and it would have been this big thing.
Not
And
only
when you
that,
invoke archaeologists without giving any specific names, credentials, peer review, this is
why we can't take you seriously.
It's literally dissipating. The words are just disappearing as they come out of your mouth. We're going to need more. Okay.
I tell you what, Jonathan, if you got a web browser open?
No, I do not at the moment.
And so anybody in the world, if you go to Google right now and you type in, is Jesus's cross still standing? The first result is about a cross of Jesus tornado still stands after a tornado hits Texas. Then it's all about that. There's nothing that, like, do you think that if Jesus' cross was still standing and you typed into Google, is Jesus' cross still standing, that you would get results about a tornado striking a cross of Jesus in Oklahoma or Dallas instead of the actual cross of Jesus? Like, you need to work on your Google foo a little bit. So when you hear something on the internet, first of all, let me give you some tips. Go to Snopes, SNOPES.com, because that's a good debunking site. Type your question that you want, the evidence that you think you have, into Google and just see what kind of results it get, because it's not realistic. Now, nobody's found Jesus's tomb. There are people who think they have or haven't. How would you ever, like, let's say we found a tomb. Jonathan, how would you demonstrate that it's Jesus's? Do we have any DNA to compare?
DNA is, as far as I'm concerned, we have no evidence for that.
We have no evidence for DNA?
Well, we can't see it. So how do we know that it exists?
So hang on. Are you talking about DNA just in general? You don't believe that DNA exists, or are you talking about we don't have Jesus's DNA?
I'm not saying that I don't believe it exists. We just don't have evidence for it because we can't see it.
So you don't think sequencing the human genome ever happened?
No.
Okay. Well, then you should write to Francis Collins, the former head of the Human Genome Project, who, by the way, is a Christian and believes in Christ because he saw a waterfall frozen into three. But he has argued on behalf of this. And right now you're just in a position where you called us and said you had evidence. Then you said you take everything on faith. And on faith now, you're writing off DNA. You're writing off the entirety of genetics because you think you can't see it. Jonathan, I'm gonna show how much respect that I have for you and most people on the planet. I think you're full of shit. I think you're making stuff up right now and calling in just to see how long you can do this and make it go along. Because I genuinely don't encounter people who say, I don't care about evidence, I just take things on faith. And DNA, I'm not going to believe that because we can't see it. I find you beyond ridiculous. So thanks for calling.